Welcome to Site Cape Cod, a program supporting the preservation of our natural and historic spaces. I'm your host, Chris Seufert, and for today's show, we'll be covering the Edward Hopper House in Truro. For those of you unfamiliar with his work, this is probably one of the most famous of his paintings, entitled Nighthawks, which was done in 1942. With me in the studio today is Jeff Thibodeau, graduate student of landscape architecture at Cornell University, who's been working on an evaluation of the site's significance. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thanks, Chris. Good to be here.
Glad you can make it.
Yeah.
So you've been working on the preservation of this site now since September.
Right.
What exactly has been your role in this project?
Okay, well, first of all, let me orient you guys to the site itself. This is a USGS map of the Wellfleet Quadrangle section of Cape Cod. This is Wellfleet Harbor here. This is the spit at Jeremy Point, and this is Pamet Harbor in Truro. The site itself is about 2 miles south of Pamet Harbor on the Bay Coast, outlined in pink here. This is an aerial photo at about 1 inch equals 100 feet scale. Here's the coastline. This is
the Cape Cod Bay.
Cape Cod Bay, yep, to the west. North is straight up. And here's the house that we're talking about. The site extends out in about a 40-acre swath to the north. The photo cuts off the northern portion, but most of the site is right in here.
So you had this aerial photo done specifically for this project?
I did, exactly. I had Kelsey Kennard do that in Chatham, and I used this for some mapping purposes. Who I've been working with are three groups, basically, three nonprofit land trust organizations. One is the Truro Conservation Trust, also the Compact for Cape Cod Conservation Trust, which is a regional body in Barnstable, overseeing the actions of the town trusts. And then a national trust called the Trust for Public Land in Boston, which was instrumental in working on that Walden Woods project in Concord, Thoreau's place. So I've been working with them, and what I've been doing is looking at the issue of preservation in general, at every scale, from the world scale right on down to the site scale here in Truro. And I've been trying to look at the site very specifically to find out, exactly what is there and what is worthy of preservation.
So it's not only local, but global significance.
Certainly, I think, exactly. Yeah.
Before getting into the actual house and the landscape around the house, can you tell us a little bit about who Edward Hopper was and what he did as a painter? Yeah, as you said earlier, he was an American painter. He was born in 1882 and he died in 1967. In 1930, he and his wife came to Truro for their first summer here, where they painted scenes. Both of them were artists. They painted scenes of the Lower Cape for the most part, people, places, and buildings. In 1934, they built their own house on the bluff in Truro here, which is what we're dealing with today. And Hopper himself is probably most famous for being one of the first truly American artists. Some people would say he has hints of abstract expressionism. Some people call him a realist, and there are Cubist influences there, certainly. But less important than that was the way he depicted his subjects. He used the very bright and lively light here on the Cape to sort of amplify the objectivity of the subjects. He, rather than fuse the separation between things, he tried to point up the individuality, the separateness, the isolation, and give things a fullness to them. Very similar to the Truro landscape itself.
Yeah, it's very, very similar in the simplicity and the starkness, really, of what he saw.
Certainly preserving the legacy of a man as important as Hopper was and is still to our culture is one of the things we look for in our national and federal, our national and state governments. The National Historic Preservation Act of 1966, which eventually culminated in the creation of the National Register of Historic Places, is probably one of the most widely used tools in the preservation movement today. I'd like to read a little clip from that, if I may. The National Register states that a level of significance is present in sites that possess integrity of location, design, setting, materials, workmanship, feeling, and association, and that are associated with events that have made a significant contribution to the broad patterns of our history, are associated with the lives of persons significant in our past, embody the distinctive characteristics of a type, period, or method of construction that represent the work of a master, that possess high artistic value, or that represent a significant and distinguishable entity whose components may lack individual distinction. So essentially, the register is supposed to help us separate significant properties from those that may not be worth saving. In your opinion, is this particular property worth fighting for?
Oh, certainly. It has international as well as local significance, and that's really what I've been trying to show in this work.
Mm-hmm. We've got a video clip that was shot on location at the Hopper House in Truro. It runs about 20 minutes long, and we're going to roll that now to give you a first-hand view of exactly what Jeff is talking about. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go to that.
Great.
The Hopper House is striking. It's got 4 brightly whitewashed facades here. It's set off nicely against the dark landscape in the background. Unlike the houses around it, which are tucked into the valleys, this one sits up high on a bluff overlooking Cape Cod Bay. From here, there's probably one of the best views I've had on all of the Cape. It's easy to see why Edward Hopper, as an artist, would want to site his studio here, where we can look out to the entire outer arm of Cape Cod. We'll see as we move around the site here how wonderful the view is out here. And in fact, how wonderful it is looking at quite memorable. We're looking south to the former studio of the American painter Edward Hopper, who resided with his wife, Jo, during the summers of 1930 to 1960, and painted most of his scenes from behind that dark north side studio window where the artist's best light is. The house itself was designed by Hopper, a modest cape with some aberrations like a central chimney and a small porch which is barely visible from here that was built later. The house is eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places under each of the criteria listed in that piece of legislation. It is presently not on the list, in the process of being nominated. And this land is the land to which Edward Hopper looked for his inspiration in most of his landscapes of the Lower Cape. In terms of historic places, this is very historic. In the regional policy plan, in the resident survey, 66% of those asked said that historic areas should be a priority for the commission's work, the preservation of historic areas. In the sense of place study done by a team with the help of the Cape Cod Commission, one of the aspects that they wanted to preserve about Cape Cod was the historic heritage, and it was singled out among the people and places on Cape Cod's history was Edward Hopper. This is rather significant. There seems to be a mandate Cape-wide for preserving places such as this, particularly the appreciation of Hopper's art. The land itself cannot be separated from the home or from the man. There's a direct channel for the work that Hopper produced. And I think that if we want to remember and preserve what Hopper created, we need to start where it all started, and that is with this land and with the atmosphere, with the environment in which the man worked and created. The Hopper landscape itself comprises about 40 acres north of the Hopper House. To the immediate northwest of the house, tucked into a sizable depression, is a remnant of what was once a salt marsh, but is now cut off from the bay by the encroaching foraging. This, along with the freshwater swamp to the east of the Hopper House, are of particular interest. Known to be the most productive ecosystem on Earth, wetlands are afforded strict legal protection and a 100-foot wide buffer zone prohibiting development. with only occasional variances to this legislation. Beyond this, these two basins is the bulk of the landscape. It's composed of the rare grassy heath ecosystem. According to the botanical surveyor on this project, Mario De Gregorio, this is a rare combination of the sandplain grassland and the heathland communities to a degree where neither dominates the other. It is considered by the naturalist and author Bob Finch as nationally significant. And the grassy heath is found in only very few places. Cape. One of the dominant species in the sandplain grassland portion of this heath, little blue stem grass and bunch grass, while in the heathland, they have bearberry, beautiful glossy leaved evergreen ground cover which covers large portions of the site, golden heather, and poverty grass along with this. The most important subdominant species in the heathland community, however, is Burning crowberry, which is a species of special concern in Massachusetts. All of these plants come together to produce a mottled carpet of colorful vegetation on this rolling moorland. I mentioned the salt marsh running earlier. It itself harbors a thriving halophytic plant community, according to De Gregorio, and includes species such as salt marsh hay, spike grass, black grass, and sea lavender. The hopper landscape is part of the Hogsback section of South Florida. This area was named by Scottish explorers who saw a resemblance of the area to the profile of the animal itself. For the bay side of Cape Cod, bluffs here are very high. The hilltop at the very north end of the site is 100 feet above sea level, and its perceived height is even greater because its steep west slope on marine scarp, which measured about 35% in slope inclination and is unvegetated, very erosive. This scarp is one of a limited number on the Bay Coast of Cape Cod. Most steep bordered slopes of this type occur on the Atlantic shore, where wind wave energy is much higher. Slope, except for the slope, most of the land is heavily vegetated with Burning crowberry, which exists on about 1/3 to 1/2 of the ridge, mostly on the ridge extending northwards from the Opera House and surrounding the house as well. It's a light, feathery textured ground cover. As I said before, is a species of special concern in the state, which the basic definition for that would be a native vegetation which is in danger of being considered rare or being threatened in the near future. If measures aren't taken to protect it, if you were looking at it now. The New Massachusetts Endangered Species Act regs, crowberry would be afforded some sort of legal review in the case of potential impacts. Scenic beauty is a major reason why many of us move to Cape Cod. It's one of the things we need to preserve if we want to continue to live here in the same kind of atmosphere. The original policy plan, which was created by the Cape Cod Commission, findings and policy is based largely on a random survey distributed to about 4,000 Cape Cod residents with a 66% return. In that survey, 71% said that scenic resource protection and protection of open space should be a priority for the Cape Cod Commission's work. Here in Hopper and the Hopper landscape in the Hogsback section of South Truro, scenic resources have been inventoried within the Massachusetts Landscape Inventory, which was done for all of the state. There were 3 designated zones, noteworthy, distinctive, and common. I should mention that the Hopper landscape was considered noteworthy in this study, although I would give it a distinction rating by my assessment. Here's Corn Hill, which is suffering from rampant development, another historic site which has houses virtually built on top of each other. Here we're looking out to the Pilgrim Monuments in Provincetown, one of the best views from this site, atop the 100-foot high hill. not surprising to find these historic sites neatly adjacent to the coast itself. Even today, about 80% of the world's population is flocking to the coastlands, which comprise only about 10% of the land area. And Cape Cod, as we know, is a major destination for people from all over the world. The beach is very mobile, probably the most swiftly changing of all the geologic features, and we can see an enormous change in the course of only a few hours. A dune, on the other hand, is a little bit less swiftly changing, owing to its vegetation, but changing nonetheless. This one here is slowly encroaching upon the Hopper landscape to the east, and we as preservationists, land preservationists, must realize that eventually this dune is going to cover over what we're trying to save. In this case, species of special concern, a rare ecosystem, an historic view, and an historic site. But I think that unlike other forms of preservation, we as landscape preservationists need to allow for this change, recognizing that it's inherent in natural processes. So when it comes to trying to save what's there now, we need to recognize that really what we should be trying to do is preserve natural processes on the one hand, and on the other hand, what I call the identity of the place. This identity, unlike our normal concept of identity, which is sort of a label or a categorization we place on someone or something, identity in this case is changing every moment. And I feel that's true for humans as well. And that we need to allow and respect that change. It's when we don't allow and respect that change that we've taken away someone's or something's identity. In terms of land preservation, overdevelopment and other hindrances to the natural processes, again, expression of the identity, is the problem. And in this case, where a dune encroaches on the area, well, that's part of the process, and it's okay. Parking lots, excess use, even if it's just a footpath. These coastline shots show a number of very subtle things. First of all, erosion is constant force in any often native vegetation, especially American beach grass on Cape Cod, is the only thing which catches the sand, stabilizing it and enabling it to form one of its major functions, flood protection. Where humans build too closely to the shore, even something as simple as a staircase can hinder the establishment of plants which are necessary to hold the sand in place. Erosion is occurring at a rather rapid pace in some parts on the edge of the Hopper landscape, based on their site pictures. Here the balance is upset even if in a minor way. So, as we think about the Hopper House again, we realize again why Hopper chose to site his house here. But I think we're recognizing the end of the days when we can build without care so close to the shore. Eventually, as we're seeing in towns like Chatham and Inshore, these houses are going to either be lost or they're going to have to build seawalls in order to be protected. Seawalls which really threaten the very function of the beach and of the coastal ecosystem. Edward Hopper sat behind this window to create his paintings from the years between 1930 and 1960, seeking a light which streamed into this north side of his studio home, amplifying the objectivity of his paintings which seek to amplify the separate nature of objects, to see them in themselves, unaided by the security of groups or activities that occurred around them. The subjects of his paintings were part of a unified composition, but had in and of themselves value and objectivity that Hopper seeked to express. Not only to explore what was around him in his world, but to explore himself. As Deepak Chopra said, nature is the mirror, the seer is the scene.
Well, Jeff, you obviously put a lot of work into that clip, and I want to thank you for that.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Your interpretation of the site seems to begin at a very personal level, and what I mean by that is that a lot of the action that we get from the national government is sometimes limited to purely scientific level.
Mm-hmm.
How did you arrive at the personal approach that you took to this site?
Well, first of all, I think
What are some of the things that influenced you on that?
Well, I think that scientific approach is important to a degree, and I think a large part of the clip and what we've been talking about so far has dealt with the parts, ecology, the history, the pieces of the puzzle, so to speak, and that's important when you're trying to communicate issues to the larger public and try to isolate things that need to be protected or things that are important. On the other hand, when you go or I go to a site like this and we experience it, there's a much more subjective understanding that it's difficult to put into words, really. But I think for a lot of people, it's the more important of the understandings that we come away with. And it's the type of understanding that people come away from Cape Cod with. It's that memory. Okay, that's so hard to describe, and it's what I call, and many people call, a Gestalt perspective. It's a whole that is greater than the sum of the parts. Okay, and I think it's the way Edward Hopper looked at and understood the landscape there, and I think it's important for us to do the same. So again, the feeling of the place, the spirit of it, is very important. And I've tried to focus on that, as I think we all should.
So I think what you're saying is that somehow by being in the landscape itself, surrounded by everything that Edward Hopper was surrounded by, you can get an idea as to what inspired him.
Exactly. That direct experience cannot be replaced with anything else. And that's where you really get the character that we're trying to feel here.
I think this local involvement is very important. If we don't want to have, especially the bureaucrats in Washington really deciding deciding matters for us that are very important here on Cape Cod, and they're very specific to this area. But our time is just about up here, Jeff, and I want to thank you. I want to thank you very much for joining me here.
Appreciate it. It's been my pleasure.
Maybe we can have you back sometime when you're further along in the project.
Okay.
You're not so busy with Cornell.
At that time may never come to pass. We'll see.
Before we go, I'd like to leave you with a quote by Valerie Talmadge, who's been very active in historical preservation here in Massachusetts. She said, "Preservationists are not so much concerned with the past as they care about the future. And planning for the protection of historical resources helps communities grow gradually and organically without destroying their character." So I hope you'll be with us next time on Site Cape Cod. I'm your host, Chris Seufert. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.